This work session regular meeting of the Township Council is called to order. In accordance with Section 5 of the Open Public Meeting Act, Chapter 231, Public Law 1975, be advised that adequate notice of this work session regular meeting of the Township Council of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, was made by the posting on the bulletin board at the municipal complex and transmitted to the officially designated newspapers a list of dates annually, indicating that this work session regular meeting would take place at the Franklin Township Municipal Complex at 7 o'clock p.m. on Tuesday, July 16th, 2013. In addition, a copy of this notice is and has been available to the public and is on file in the office of the municipal clerk. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Remain standing for the invocation, which will be given by Councilman Brian Regan.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. O God, the Creator and Redeemer of all the faithful, hear our prayer, and through your infinite love and mercy, graciously grant us the strength and power in our thoughts and decisions to be for the benefit of all people at all times. Amen.
Madam Clerk, please call the roll of the council.
Councilman Chase.
Here.
Councilwoman Francois.
Here.
Councilman Kramer.
Here.
Mayor Levine.
Here.
Councilman Prasad. Councilman Regan.
Here.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Here.
Councilman Vasanella.
Here.
Councilman Wright.
Here.
Okay, very good. And please pardon our delay a little bit this morning. We had, this evening, we had some systems problems, so a few things were delayed, getting printed and out, so thanks for bearing with us on that. We're following along on our agenda. You can certainly come here by our clerk, Ms. McCarthy, and get a copy of the agenda, the associated resolutions, and ordinances, and follow along. We are now at item number 5, commendations and proclamations. And commendation, Safi Callan, Rebecca Michaela, did I pronounce it right? Okay. So please, Councilman Phil Kramer, join me by the podium. Thanks.
Oh, I was looking for that. Thank you.
Sorry for the delay. I had a little stage direction. Okay, so commendation. Whereas it was a dark and stormy night, and whereas the National Weather Service was predicting a 100% chance of rain with tornado warnings, and whereas it was the night of project graduation when at 9 p.m. 450 graduating high school students were to gather in front of the Villagers Theater without adequate shelter, and whereas the township opened the community center to accommodate them and ensure their safety, and whereas when the center opened, who did we find but Safi Callan and Rebecca Michael at their desk, catching up with their work, wearing gowns. And whereas they dropped what they were doing and cheerfully assisted directing the graduates, and whereas in no small part because of their efforts, project graduation proceeded without injury or incident. Now, therefore, be it resolved by Councilman Philip Kramer and Mayor Brian D. Levine, on behalf of the Township Council of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, wish to show our deep appreciation to Safety Callahan and Rebecca Michael, not only for their ability to adapt to unusual situations, but also because we found them working in formal wear at 9 o'clock at night. So what happened was I got a call at like 7 or 8 o'clock at night saying, Phil, it's going to be raining. These students are going to be out there, graduates, they're no longer students, are going to be out there. We've got tornado warnings. What are we going to do? We wound up opening the community center. I was standing out there with a yellow slicker and an umbrella directing traffic. Deputy Mayor Sherman was inside directing students when they got inside, but when we opened it up, there they were at 9 o'clock at night in formal wear, working at their desks, and I just thought that deserved particular note. Here's a picture of the community center, which had decorations up, and fortunately the tables weren't there. It was all just perfect. And there our two heroines are in the foreground, and we just filled the room with students. The manager sent this picture to Alice Osipowicz, who runs the center, saying, "Look what's going on in your building right now." And she talked to me later, and she said, "Oh, am I in trouble?" So it was a lot of fun, and it reminded me of being in the military when you have plans and you plan it out for months and months and months, and then everything goes to heck, and you make it work anyway, because that's what you got to do. And that's the can-do attitude here really helped, and I very much appreciate what you were doing and the smiles you gave. And we have to correct a typo here. It actually says with injury and incident. It's a little more personal that it's connected in pen. Sorry. Would you like to say something?
I figured everybody came around and was in their formal wear at 9 o'clock at night working. I would love to say that we were waiting for, us to be in need, but we were prepping for summer like we always do. We actually were waiting for the Franklin Township Youth Council kids that just graduated to congratulate them because we had 7 out of 10 in the top 10 at Franklin High School. We're very proud. So I'm glad we were there. I'm glad we could help, and I'm so appreciative that you're honoring us for it. Thank you. Oh, we put up those decorations too.
I just want to say thank you to everyone. Really, we were in the right place at the right time, and teamwork makes the dream work. So it was really everyone. So thank you so much.
Well done. Cute.
Okay, so now on our latest agenda, we have executive session for litigation regarding the Pulte matter, and before we can vote on anything in that regard, we have to go into executive session to discuss something. So,
Mr. Mayor, if I may
Councilwoman
make
Sherman?
one suggestion. After we come out of executive session, there is a resolution that we will be voting on, the council will be voting on. I would like to suggest that that resolution is moved down to after the public discussion so that any residents who are here from Somerset Run will be in a position to make any comments they have about the settlement agreement and have their voices heard.
Okay, so there's a motion to amend the agenda, because after executive session, we're going to vote on it, but Councilwoman Sherman thinks we should allow the public to speak about it, because a lot of things have been happening very, very good. So we're going to move that
Second
to
that,
after
Mayor.
public. Moved in
I
second.
second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Okay, so now, moment, I'm going to ask for a vote of the council to go into executive session. And usually that's at the end. We're doing it early so that we can do the Pulte matter so that those involved in it can go. I suspect it's going to be anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes, although I've been wrong in my lifetime. So, in executive session, that's when we can meet in private, the council, and there's only certain circumstances like litigation support, personnel matter, attorney-client privilege. So we're going to do that, and then you can stay here, we're going to adjourn to a little conference room right here, and when we're done, we'll come out and continue the meeting. So this is Resolution 13-346 to authorize executive session litigation Pulte. Is there resolution to adopt, is there a motion to adopt this resolution for executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on Resolution 13-346 to go into executive session, please.
Councilman Chase.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois. Councilman Kramer.
Yes.
Mayor Levine.
Yes.
Councilman Regan.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman.
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Okay, so here's what's going to happen now. We're going to go into that room, have our executive session meeting, and then we're going to come out, we're going to vote to come out of executive session, hopefully quickly, the mayor's report, deputy mayor's report, public discussion where you could discuss anything you want, Pulte, but anything else, and then we'll vote on this resolution that we have regarding Pulte, in essence, Somerset Run. Okay, so hopefully we'll be back fairly quickly. Excuse us. Okay, we have returned from executive session. Item 6A on the agenda, Resolution 13-346, to authorize the executive session resolution litigation regarding Pulte. From the council, is there a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. We're out of executive session, we're back in our regular session. And again, on the agenda, what we're going to do now is item number 7, the mayor's report, then the deputy mayor's report, item 8. We'll go to public discussion, where we can hear anything that is on your mind, the Pulte Somerset Run issue included.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Wright.
I would like to find out if we can move number 16A regarding the zoning.
Okay,
If we could move that up, because some of the residents are here just for that. And I was talking to our township planner, Mr. Healy,
okay.
who said it wouldn't be too long. Right, Mark?
Okay.
If you want me to speak, very short, or I can just answer questions, whatever the council wants.
You want to do that right after Pulte?
Okay.
Yeah,
You-
I'd like to go as soon as possible.
Where would you,
Right after Pulte.
When are we going to do Pulte?
Right after,
Public discussion.
Okay. Right after public discussion, okay.
after
Cool.
Pulte, and then
Right.
your issue.
Not a
Okay.
problem.
Okay.
so I'll take
Second.
that, oh, yes, motion to amend the agenda. So right after public discussion, the vote on the Pulte Somerset Run issue, and then item 16A, which is public hearing and final adoption, ordinance 4021-13, and that's regarding a change in the general business, basically altering some of the provisions for high-density housing. So that's the motion, change the agenda. Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Okay. Good, so we're going to proceed along that way. I'll keep you abreast of every point at which we are, so you know when the time comes. So now we're at item number 7, the mayor's report. And today, my mug for the meeting is Rutgers. And I went to Rutgers, got my BA in economics there, minor math and computers. And I'm disappointed to say they've been on the map recently for some negative things. You know, certainly some good things too, like the merger I think will do well, but got a basketball coach who got us national attention in a way we didn't want it. We've got an athletic director was controversial in today's paper. We've got a president who sits on the board of companies to which Rutgers gives contracts, which some are saying is a conflict of interest, and I would tend to agree. So for my great alma mater, which is right next door to us and has some facilities here in Franklin, and touching it, I hope things get together for them a lot better. So the meeting, as I kind of explained where we're going, usually our meetings are the second and fourth Tuesdays of the month. The exceptions are July, August, and December, where we only have it on the second Tuesday and not the fourth. Yeah, and so an exception to exception is today, when we have it on the third Tuesday, give it a little time. And another exception to the exception is in August, because the special primary for United States Senator is going to be on the second Tuesday in August, August 13th, so our meeting will be the 15th, that Thursday instead. I think it's October 16th is the general election for the U.S. Senate, and then you can return to the polls again on November 5th for the general election of everything else. We, as was stated by Councilman Kramer and attended by Deputy Mayor Raj Sherman. I was going to call you Lieutenant Governor.
Lieutenant
Okay.
Governor, all right, I got promotion.
The graduation was a few weeks ago. Congratulations to all of the graduates. I think a few people were at project graduation. I dropped off there a little bit late today, and I was at graduation. That was great event to see all of our kids. We did have our fireworks again, and that was stellar, as always. Forthcoming, I've talked about an organization, Building One New Jersey, to try and, instead of making 565 towns so isolated and older suburbs like Franklin not always getting our fair share, in our opinion, of funds and resources. I've been on there, been on the board, testified before the legislature on other things for us. They're holding their parent organization, Building One America, in Washington, D.C. this coming week. So I was invited to be on a panel there, so I will be there. It's bipartisan, about a dozen Congress people there too. And I'm going to lobby for some extra funds and resources for us too. Hopefully I'll come back with something in hand. We'll see how that goes. Washington is a tough place in that it seems less and less the Congress works together, becoming more and more polarized. So I hope that does not become a model for us in any way. And that's all I have for the mayor's report. So next we have item 8, the deputy mayor's report. So Deputy Mayor, almost Lieutenant Mayor Rosalind Sherman.
I did it the easy way. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Oops. Excuse me. Oh, my notes just fell on the floor. I'd like to first talk about the July 4th event. I, as the chair of the Cultural Arts Council, was responsible for the entertainment, and I think it was absolutely stellar, if I have to say so myself. We had some wonderful music. There were huge crowds standing in front of the bandstand, listening to all of the great entertainment that we had, and I'd like to thank all of the groups, including our own senior high steppers who kicked off the program. So it was just a wonderful evening, hot, but okay. It rained a little bit, but it didn't stay that way, and it turned out to be a wonderful evening. And of course, the fireworks are always the ultimate part of the evening. I also would like to discuss briefly a groundbreaking ceremony that I was invited to along with Councilman Kramer, a group, the St. Thomas Syro Malabar Parish Community of East Millstone, which has one of these wonderful problems. They've grown too big for their current location, and they have broken ground for a new site on Elizabeth Avenue, which is rather close to the new high school, not terribly far from there on Elizabeth Avenue. So it was wonderful. It was very colorful. This is a group that was founded in India, St. Thomas went to India and formed several different churches there, and it has grown over the centuries, and we have, I believe in this country, I think I heard 160 different parishes of this particular group. So it was colorful, it was very warm, and it was just very delightful to see this parish growing at the rate that it's growing. I also would like to commend our police department. There was a couple of incidents in the not too distant past, week or so ago. Our crime suppression unit rose to the situation, and we're very, very proud of them for being out there protecting the public. There was one incident in which a loaded .38 caliber handgun was found in a car at a traffic stop, and the police were able to take the gun away, and there were no incidents. There was another incident in which there was a shooting on Coventry Road, I think it is. There were 2 perpetrators, and it didn't take more than 2 hours for the police to locate them and arrest them. And there were also drugs involved in this whole thing. So I'm very proud. I'm sure we're all here very proud of our police department for keeping us safe. That's a crime suppression unit in particular, I would like to just mention for particular praise. The last thing I want to talk about is group that I'm on the Senior Advisory Committee. I am the liaison from the council. It's probably my favorite committee of all the committees that I'm on. This is one heck of a great group of people. Just to give you some sense of who they are and what they do, they have always put together backpacks for the youth in Franklin Township, and they were doing it for other groups. United Way was one of them, and another one of our state legislators who does that. And when I made them aware of the fact that those backpacks don't always come to Franklin schools, they'll wind up in different parts of Somerset County or even Middlesex County, well, they were not going to stand for that, and they took it on their own and went to the schools and spoke to the nurses and the guidance counselors in the various schools, found out how many backpacks were needed, found out what it was that they needed, and have put together an extensive list of things that could be provided to our school children. We have many children in our school system who can't afford to buy their own school supplies. Very often teachers wind up buying them, and they don't always get what they need. So this wonderful group of seniors goes to Staples, they go to Office Depot, they raise money all over the place trying to take care of the needs of our children. So I would like first to recognize them for what they're doing and thank them for what they're doing, and 2 of them are here tonight, Jean and Irene. I would like to suggest that anybody who would like to contribute to their program contact Shonda Sanchez at our Recreation Department. You can call 732-873-1991 and take option 4 and leave a message for her, and she will get back to you. So money is always a good thing. We in the township are also going to put out a barrel in the vestibule of the municipal building, so you can drop off your things there. We will somehow figure out how to get you the list that Jean and Irene have developed so that you buy the things that are most in need by our children. There are things like underwear, which you would never think of as school supplies, but the school nurses need it sometimes for the children. So we won't go through the list right now, but have I left out any important issues? Ladies, is there something else I should be saying? Are we good? I covered it. Okay. If they say I'm good, then I'm good. And that's my report. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Now we're going to come to item number 9, public discussion. And a little bit later, we're going to be having ordinance hearings. And again, after public discussion, at which you can speak about anything, and again, especially if you like, Pulte, Somerset Run, and then we'll vote on the resolution regarding the litigation with Pulte, And then we will go to item number 16A, which is the general business change. That's probably be the best time to speak about that, because if you're concerned about that item, it'll have its own public hearing, so that one might be better to wait till that point, because then, again, we'll hear it specifically on there, but I'll try and keep it clear. So now, we're going to move to public discussion. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Okay, so the meeting in a second will be open for public discussion. We'll hear anything that's on your mind. And as is our policy, each person has 5 minutes to speak. You'll come up to the podium, give us your name and address. You'll raise your hand when I recognize you. And as is our policy, people come up once per meeting. There's no yielding of time. Please address all your comments to the council. And if any of us should answer, we'll so direct. If you have questions and we can answer it quickly, we'll certainly try and do that when you're up also. Please note that we're being audio and videotaped. So I guess that's the part I want to tell you, and we're glad to hear anything on your mind. So anyone wishing to speak, and again, this is the only time of a general nature. Pretty soon we're going to have things of specific ones, but anything of a general nature, again, including the Pulte. Raise your hand, I'll recognize you and come to the podium. Mr. Levine, and then Mr. Tibbs.
Steve Levine, 171 Stone Manor Drive. You absolutely, positively must not approve the Pulte agreement without some alterations, because the Pulte agreement is defective. Some of us have made some modifications to our heating systems at our own expense over the years to get better performance, and we have in fact gotten that better performance. Yet the Pulte agreement in section 4C says, well, let me go through that first. I talked with Vince Lupo while you were out in executive session, and he said to me, when I said to him, as you know, I have changed some of the supply registers in my heating systems because the crappy, lousy registers that Pulte gave us were no good, and I bought good registers from Lowe's, and I've changed a whole bunch of those, and so have many other people. And Vince said, well, just because you've changed the supply register, I don't think that would prevent Pulte from fixing problems in the ductwork in your house. And that sounded okay to me, so I felt a little better. But then I reread the agreement. Pulte is not responsible for and is not obligated by this agreement to perform any repairs to the home's ductwork in heating equipment or cooling equipment related to or caused by, and it lists some things, homeowner alterations, additions or changes to a home's building envelope, framing, structure, heating equipment, cooling equipment, or ductwork, including but not limited to supply or return registers. Well, I've changed a whole bunch of my supply registers, but I have defective ductwork in my attic, as everybody knows, because the township inspected that, and they have photographs, and they have told Pulte that. So you mean to tell me that because I have better registers installed in my house, Pulte is not going to fix the defective ductwork in my attic? That is absolutely wrong.
And it's
and
not
so
what the, and
unless
it's not,
you,
it's
unless you
not
get that changed.
It's not what the agreement says.
Mr. Levine, I'm going to ask.
Well, okay.
Ask our attorney, Ms.
The
Raynaud.
agreement only says that they're not going to fix anything that you made worse. It says they're not going to fix anything that was caused by you altering the system. So, I mean, if you have to read the whole paragraph to read it in context. It doesn't say they're not going to fix it because you had an alteration. Is that if you did something that made it worse, for instance, if you did alterations that made it worse, that made it less performing, I mean, the word that you kind of jumped over is caused by, right? is not responsible, obligated to do anything that's caused by you. So it's not, it doesn't say if you did an alteration, we're not touching it. It's only if you did something to make it worse. For instance, I mean, if you have to read the whole paragraph. If you added, I don't think you could in this building, but if you added on to the house, and as a result of that, you didn't upgrade the HVAC system and it's not performing well, they're not going to be obligated to upgrade it to make it perform for your addition. Likewise, if you cut vents in places where they weren't supposed to be cut in and you affected the performance, they're not going to fix that. So the purpose of this whole agreement is that we're going to test 2 of every possible configuration of house, come up with a fix, and then fix them all. But they're not going to fix things that you may have broken.
That's why the township needs to hire a competent attorney.
And it's one of my recommendations, by the way.
What is that?
It's one of my recommendations.
Yes, but now that I read this thing, for the 3rd time, what it says, Lou, is exactly what you said. If my wonderful new ductwork caused a problem with the heating system, then they wouldn't fix the duct.
Correct.
But if it didn't cause a problem, if it fixed a problem, they will still fix the ducts.
Correct.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You can approve the thing.
Okay,
Vince,
thank you.
You were right. You were right. Thank you.
Mr. Ranone, you now have the Steve Levine seal of approval.
Not too many people get that.
Covered it.
Okay, Mr. Tibbs?
Well, that's, by the way, 40 years in the making.
But, Mr. Levine, though, it's seriously, I think that was very good that you brought that to attention, because we hear part of it, and, whether it's right or wrong, you come with an opinion, you look at it, and tell us what might need to be altered. So that's actually very good. They came and related that to us. Appreciate it.
The word caused by didn't sink in until he said it, but you were perfectly right. Thank you.
Thanks.
Can I go now, Steve?
Yeah. Mr. Tibbs, go ahead.
Thank you. Johnny Tibbs, 25 Parkside. I'll be one as long as Steve, but I'll try to get some of these things out. But first of all, I'd like to thank Councilman Chase and his wife and some of the other dignitaries that came down to our garden opening last week. It was, I understand, they were impressed, and so was I. You guys did see it, you would be impressed of what the senior citizens have done down there. It's great. Secondly, the Robinsons, the Montgomerys, the Briggses, the Prescotts, the Harolds, Mrs. Maria Ramirez, the Diggses, the Taylors, the Copelands, the Millers, and the Mitchells have all asked me to ask you that they need a community center very bad in that area down there. They have identified a building that would be absolutely the best place for a community center. That was 429 Lewis Street. I'm here to ask you guys that whatever has to happen in the next coming years, that you will try to give that building back to the community. The community built that building. These names I just read off, there were people that built that building. And they want that building for a community center. If it's anything that we can do, and new agency that we have created, if anything you guys can help us acquire that building and not let anybody else get that building, except going back to the community, you would appreciate it. The community would appreciate it. Thirdly, the post office people called me last night and told me they gave them 60 days before they're going to close the post office off of Franklin Boulevard. Now, we went through that fight one time before. I understand that they was going to let it stay open. I have to remind you guys that it's just like the time that you moved the voting booth out of Parkside up to Middlebush. Of course, that was total violation of the human rights almost. It serves the same purpose now, that post office. That post office is the only place for the senior citizen, which I live in, can go to the post office, and you have a brand-new senior citizen building coming up right next door to the post office, right next door. And them senior citizens are alarmed already to even think about the post office leaving. So if there's anything you guys can do to help them senior citizens maintain a post office where they can go to the post office without coming all the way to Middlebush, I don't have to tell you how great it would be appreciated. Okay. Now, the last thing is the pool. The pool was coming along pretty good. I had some problems with it in the beginning, but a lot of the restrictive provisions they had for the kids to get in the pool, they're easing them some, but there are some others that's still kind of restrictive because a lot of people, even with the camp was supposed to be free, but whenever you ask any families in that area for financial statements and so forth, start getting to the financial background, of course, they become very suspicious and they don't like to do that. What happens then, the kids don't be able to take a part of the certain programs that you have available to them. And we'll try to work that out, some kind of way of getting the news to the parents. That's all I got to say right now, except for the fact that we have when you talk about crime submission, Councilman Sherman, we are doing that down in that area. If you notice the crime that they have reported, it's not in that area. There was one, but we also are working on crime submission in that particular area so we can change the attitude that we've always had about that being a high crime area. So there is some people that's quite concerned about the things down there, and they need a community center would be the thing that we can house the kids. It'd be a miracle if we get out this summer without anything tragic happening. It'd be a miracle because we don't have nowhere to put the kids at, nowhere to go. Thank you very much, John.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Tibbs, just quickly, that Lewis Street, that's the building owned by SCAP, isn't it?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so I guess that's fine.
Yes, sir.
The town would have to buy it or somehow get it if we're going to turn into a youth center. Okay. And one thing, with the post office, I may suggest you contact our Congressman, Rush Holt, who went to bat last time, and I'm sure would do that again. That might be a good way to combat it. Okay, thank you. Okay, anyone else would like to speak of anything of a general nature? Yes. And also, you heard some tones. Yeah, come right up. You heard some tones. When we have a timer going, so when 3 minutes has elapsed, you'll hear a tone. And then when all 5 minutes have elapsed, you'll hear multiple tones, and I'll ask you to wrap up your thoughts, please, if you're not completed. So thank you. Your name and address,
Good evening.
please.
Maria Panlilio, 62 Rushagal. I come before you to ask who has oversight over the zoning and planning department and seek your help in preventing a repeat of my very unpleasant experience in the municipal court with the zoning department. I did try to reach out to the township manager just a couple days ago, but they referred me back to Mr. Healy. But I know that I have only 5 minutes to describe to you the chronology of the events. I will try to keep within time, but by giving the overall description to begin with. I first got a violation notice on March 19. I responded quickly with a visit to the township to understand the violation. I let them know that this patio was built 10 years ago. The violation was I built a patio without a zoning permit. And Barbara insisted that I need to file a zoning permit now and bring a copy of my survey. She said that she cannot find my survey. She said it will cost me a zoning fee and a cost of the survey. Mr. Healy joined Barbara in the conversation and brought in the head of construction, who then proceeded to say that I may need an engineer to evaluate if the patio was built to prevent damage on my foundation. It's kind of like scaring us to just file the permit again. Continuing to say, he said that if I did not do this, the construction guy, it could violate my insurance policy. And more scary comments about how much it would cost me later on. Feeling intimidated, I said, so if I tear down the patio, will this go away? By the way, around this time in March, I also filed a tax appeal on the same property and followed the procedure for the tax appeal. Thinking that it was a tax appeal process that triggered this, I asked, why is this coming up now 10 years after the patio was built? Barbara responded, a woman has been going around making complaints, and she continued to say that she went around in our neighborhood I can talk about that complaining woman later on. And she said she continued to, she checked the neighborhood and she saw my patio and took a picture of my patio, checked and could not find a permit on it, and so she issued a violation notice to me. After my trip to the township, same day, I looked back at my records and found documentation for the patio. I called Barbara's office straight away, left a message that I do have a copy of the 10-year-old contract that stipulated that the installer, Dennis Parano of Scarlet Lion Design, filed and handled all necessary permits needed from Franklin Township. So I left that voice message. I did not hear back from Barbara until after 2 months later, when she said, as of this date, you still are in violation, even I've left that voice message. So I immediately called her back and reminded her that I left her a voice message to emphasize that I did not recognize her notice of violation. She asked me to send her copies of the documentation, and I did, with a cover letter dated May 28. May 28, I did not hear anything back until I was served a summons to appear in court on July 11 at 9 a.m. Thinking that, I don't have much time. Thinking the July 11 court appearance was the date I will further explain and answer the questions about the violation, I reserved the schedule, and that day, coincidentally, I got a notice that my tax appeal was also on the same day, same time. So I called tax appeal and I said, I cannot appear, reschedule it. They did. So I went to court earlier in that day, the first time. It was a very, I have documented or wrote down the experience I had in the courthouse, which is not unpleasant, and I hope nobody else has to go through this, thinking that I was not, I was following the law, I filed the permit, my contractor has it, they cannot find the permits and all that. At the end of the day, I ended up pleading guilty because I was coerced, I felt intimidated and in the courthouse. I ended up pleading guilty of the violation I felt I was not guilty with, and spent $130 for a fine and a $30 courthouse. I have all the documentation here. I look back, I realized I spoke with a Brian Cunningham and a Barbara Lessick 10 years ago, which I have notes here saying that asking about what is needed if I had a patio built. By the way, I also called landscapers now, asking them to, because they asked me to correct it. Estimates for it. They said, we'll find out from the township. I insisted, make sure that all the permits are clear. If I don't need a permit, because they keep telling me, you don't need a permit. If you don't need a permit, get a written note from them that you don't need a permit if you were going to face, because I have to reset the pavers anyway on the patio. So at the end of the day, I'd like to know who can I speak to, hopefully to resolve this, because I really, I don't feel that I should go to trial and spend money on an attorney in a courthouse to make an appeal on an item that I think could easily be resolved. If I have to correct an action, we will. But please don't tell me that I'm in violation on an ordinance that I thought I took care of.
Okay, and may suggest you speak to or get a card from our township manager, who, if not him, he'll direct you to whatever staff is appropriate for that, issue.
Thank you.
And,
I did reach out to him, so I'll call again. I'll make an appointment.
I know you're trying, yeah, she'll give it to you. I know you're trying to fit in your whole story. You can always write to us, email us, or anything like that, too, if you couldn't fill in all your facts.
And I hope nobody else goes through what I'm going through. And by the way, there's a very quick one. The judge, while I was there, waived a lot of summons on alarm systems. Goes, talk to your township council about this. That gave me an idea. I'll come over here and talk to you about what's going on. Why are they issuing fees and summons left and right?
Okay, thanks a lot, and I hope it gets resolved to everyone's satisfaction. Appreciate that. Anyone else wish to speak? Anything of a general nature?
See no one coming forward, Mayor. Motion to close the public portion of the meeting?
Second.
Moved and seconded to close public discussion today. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Okay, thank you very much. We're now going to go to item, which was 6B, Resolution 13-347, authorize execution of settlement with Pulte Homes of NJ LP. So the Resolution 13-347, this resolution is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for adoption?
Mr. Mayor.
Deputy Mayor Sherman, pardon me.
A lieutenant governor, what next? I will recuse myself from this vote as a resident of Somerset Run and as one of the homeowners that has been involved with the violation process, so I'm going to recuse myself from this vote.
Okay, thank you for that.
Motion for passage of Resolution 13346.
Seconded.
It's actually 7, but okay.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm seeing 6.
That's okay.
Okay, you're right, Mayor. It's just motion for passage of Resolution 13-347.
Okay, in a second. Okay, if no discussion, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 6B, what was 6B, Resolution 13-347, authorize execution of settlement with Pulte Homes of New Jersey, LP.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you very much. That does that, and we'll all be kept abreast of everything. I know it was a long road, so good. Hopefully that works for everyone also. So now, as was moved earlier, we're going to go to item 16A, which is ordinance 4021-13. After we do this, we're going to go back to the agenda as it was. So generally ordinances go into law after 2 votes. There's an introduction, and then generally the next meeting or 2 after that, there's a second vote, and at that second vote, there's a public hearing, meaning people can speak on that ordinance. If it passes a second time, then it goes into law. So this is a public hearing, 16A, an adoption of ordinance on first reading. So we have ordinance 4021-13, an ordinance amending the code of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, more particularly, Chapter 2112, Development, regarding regulation of residential uses in certain zones. And this is generally a change in our general business zone to no longer allow high-density housing. This comes to us from the planning board, and I think notices were sent to about 900 different businesses. And we're going to have Mr. Healy give us a brief, our planner.
Very brief.
Thank you, Mr. Healy. And Mr. Healy is our planner here in town.
Probably about 2 or 3 minutes, and it may answer some questions. It commenced from a resolution from the redevelopment agency, which asked the planning board to review the number and densities of residential uses permitted in the redevelopment area. They asked the planning board to do that review. The planning board did that, and also looked at other zones throughout the town in terms of where residential uses are permitted and the densities that are permitted. The result of that, as part of that review, the planning board ended up doing a master plan amendment, which addressed this issue and which basically recommended this ordinance. Again, it was reviewed by the redevelopment agency as well as the land use committee of council. What the ordinance would do, it would eliminate as permitted uses, high-density residential uses, as permitted uses within the neighborhood business, residential underlaying zone, and the Renaissance commercial zone within the Renaissance redevelopment area. It would rezone a township-owned parcel on Campus Drive from multifamily residential to corporate business, which was its previous zoning designation, and it would eliminate garden apartment developments and townhouse developments as permitted conditional uses in the general business zone. The master plan amendment, which supported this ordinance, outlined a number of important factors. One of the main factors was the number of and size of recently constructed residential developments, which is about 300 units or more. Leewood, Franklin Boulevard Commons, Berry Street Commons, Parkside, Cedar Manor, and Canal Walk and Sterling Point, which are continuing to be developed, and also pointed out the pending and future developments, Avalon, Summerfields, Leewood, Somerset Douglas, Genesis, Voorhees Station, and the build-out of RPM's redevelopment area, which altogether, all of these developments, some of them are currently a lot of them are currently under construction, ultimately could result in several thousand more units. Other things to note is the township population increased from 51,000 to 62,000 between the 2000 and 2010 census. Another important consideration is the diversity of the township's housing stock. The township is not kind of like a similar or a typical suburban community. Only 47% of the township is single-family detached. 23% of the township's housing stock is in the form of townhomes. Another 27% of the township's housing stock is in the form of multifamily housing. So there's a wide diversity of housing stock available now, and that diversity of housing opportunities is only going to increase as these additional developments come online. With regard to the Renaissance commercial zone, again, that's in the Renaissance commercial area. Again, it's recommended to eliminate townhomes as a permitted use, and this zone would continue to permit a wide variety of commercial uses, including retail, restaurants, offices, and financial institutions. With respect to the neighborhood business underlying zone within the redevelopment area, that currently permits single-family homes, two-family homes, townhouses, as well as all of the uses permitted in the neighborhood business zone. So that means retail, restaurants, offices, banks, etc. Again, it's recommended that that zone be revised to eliminate townhouse development as a permitted use, and that zone would continue to permit a wide variety of uses, including uses that I just mentioned, the retail, restaurant, offices. The MR zone, again, that's the township-owned property on campus. That was basically included in our fair share plan, kind of as a surplus site in case we didn't meet, in case COA didn't credit us with the number of the, enough units or enough credits. We met that obligation. It's extremely likely, in my opinion, that we're going to need it to meet future affordable housing obligation. It's not subject to any development agreement, so it's not tied to any particular developer. And it's recommended that that be returned to the corporate business zone, which is its prior designation and also the designation of the surrounding area. Lastly, with respect to the general business zone, that permits a wide variety of commercial uses, retail, restaurant, office. It also permits currently garden apartment and townhouse developments as conditional uses. Based on the nature and extent of existing and planned residential development, the township is in compliance with this affordable housing obligation, and it's not anticipated that we're going to need more at this time. As part of our fair share plan, we did not rely upon the fact that we currently permit garden apartments and townhomes in the GB zone in order to meet that obligation. We didn't rely upon that, so we're not going backwards in any way in terms of our obligation. So it's recommended that garden apartment and townhouse developments be eliminated as a permitted use to the extent, and this is I've had a number of calls from residents, to the extent that there are some townhouse and garden apartment developments within the GB zone, specifically on either side of JFK, there are specific provisions that grandfather those developments, that specifically say that those developments will continue to be subject to the same exact zoning requirements that they are now. So those residents that live there have been assured that they're not going to be affected in any way. I mentioned before that in the notice, we left my name and number in case people had any questions. I've probably received in excess of 70 calls over the last few weeks. Wow. I can tell you that, and at the counter, I can tell you that of the 70 plus, after it was explained to them, 70 plus expressed either no interest, it doesn't affect me, or support. So with that, if the council has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Just actually two things. In general, once more, can you lay out geographically, just in words, where this would, where it would affect?
Well, first starting with, there's the one township-owned site on Campus Drive.
Okay.
Okay, then there's the neighborhood business residential and the Renaissance commercial zones. Those are within the Renaissance redevelopment area. So that's along Somerset, that's in the Somerset Street area. And then the general business zone, that's probably the area that's affected the most. That's, there are areas, there's a large GB zone along Easton Avenue, Rutgers Plaza, the commercial properties across Easton Avenue, those are all in the GB zone. There's a GB zone near where Hamilton Street meets Franklin Boulevard. So there's the KFC and the Walgreens
Yeah.
and some of those commercial uses surrounding, those are in a GB zone.
Okay.
And then going down Route 27, basically where you see shopping centers along Route 27, those are generally in a GB zone.
Okay. And also for my sake, could you give me the reasoning why is this good for the town that we should make this change?
Well, I think it's laid out, I think I kind of went over that just now, but it's laid out in the master plan amendment. Basically, we have already have an extremely wide, diverse housing stock, already have lots of housing, different types of housing opportunities. We've had a number of recent residential developments that have occurred over the last few years. We have several thousand units pending now. We are in a compliant situation in terms of our affordable housing obligation. And I think it's the opinion of the planning board as well as to the degree in the redevelopment area, the redevelopment agency, that there really isn't the need to add more housing, especially at the expense of taking away commercial rateable land and, shopping centers, jobs, et cetera.
Okay, thanks. Anything else,
Mayor?
Mr. Healy? Oh, Councilman Vasanella.
So even with passage of this, it doesn't stop any developer from applying for variance, still pushing to try to have residential housing, as we're not going to allow if we pass this to be built. Is that correct?
Yes, that they always have, developer could seek a use variance.
No, I support it, but I just wouldn't want to give the impression to anybody that this is a guarantee.
No, it's not a guarantee.
That
It's
we
not a
won't see
guarantee.
any more of the building.
The fact that it's specifically recommended in the master plan
Would make it harder.
would make it harder, and they would have to get a D1 use variance, which is supposed to be the hardest variance to achieve. But they would always have the right to seek that relief.
Thank you.
Okay, that's actually a very good point. Anyone could apply for a variance if he or she so chose. Okay, any other questions from Mr. Healy? Okay, thank you very much.
Sure.
Don't run off just yet, just in case. Okay, so now we have, we're going to go to the ordinance hearing. The township attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this particular ordinance?
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. A meeting is open for a public hearing on this particular ordinance. Same positions hold with the 5 minutes and the timer. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand and come to the podium and give us your name and address, please. Yes. Mr. Shemanowitz.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Ron Shemanowitz from the firm of Hutton Shemanowitz. I'm here on behalf of Dunbar Homes, Inc., and we're here to object to the ordinance. Dunbar Homes is the owner of...
closer to the mic?
Sure.
Oh, yeah.
Dunbar Homes is the owner of a property known as Block 85, Lot 59.04. It's commonly known as 1701 State Highway 27. It is currently developed as a retail center of approximately 48,000 square feet. That retail center is operating, but to be kind, it's certainly not operating optimally, and we would suggest that the town council give more consideration to this issue before adopting this ordinance tonight, particularly in light of the example given by the Dunbar Homes site. Having the option of converting this property to a garden apartment site will allow the site to operate, efficiently and optimally in that particular area. One other consideration for this particular site is that the site is adjacent to the Hempstead Village Apartments. and this particular site is a natural for a continuation of that use. So the mayor asked a very good question of Mr. Healy, what properties does this affect? I think the council should take a little time to look at all the properties that are affected, and particularly the Dunbar Homes Inc. site, because I think we're missing an opportunity to make sure that this site is always productive for the town. And for those reasons, we would object to your adoption of the ordinance.
Excuse me, what is the mall? I'm just trying to picture your exact spot. I know where Hempstead Gardens is.
Slightly south of Skillman's Lane.
There's a little strip mall south of Skillman's before you get to the entranceway to the apartments.
That is correct.
Have you put forward any kind of tentative plan or idea relevant to your desire to keep the window open?
We have recently filed an application, yes.
And I'm just wondering if Mr. Healy maybe could tell us, or I don't know, the manager or representative of the planning board, what that application involves, so then we can have a better understanding if we think that's something that is worth taking a second look at this.
We filed an application for pursuant to the ordinance as it's now written, prior to adoption of the ordinance under consideration, for a 55-unit apartment development. And that would be in accordance with your current regulations.
I'm okay if the mayor would allow Mr. Healy to comment.
Yeah, Mr. Healy?
Yes, I just do want to clarify that this ordinance had nothing to do with this application. We actually were not aware of its being a pending application, and we received it yesterday. I would respectfully suggest that I think this is a township-wide, zone-wide issue, ordinance. I think what Mr. Shimanowitz, is that right, is addressing is a case-by-case basis, and he's addressing whether this particular site is conducive, beneficial for residential use. I would suggest that those considerations are more proper before the zoning board for a use variance. I think the justification for the variance on a township-wide basis in terms of 4 different zones has a lot of support, both in terms of fewer boards and in terms of the master plan and justification for it. So I'd recommend that you adopt the ordinance.
And if I may, I was putting forth our site, certainly on behalf of a client, but it's an example of where an opportunity might be missed. There could be other examples out there. I understand Mr. Healy's comment about this not being a site-by-site analysis, but certainly there's one example out there. There may be more, and perhaps the town council wants to take a step back and look at this more carefully.
Thank you.
Mr. Shimanowitz, do you know about how large this site is?
It's approximately 7 acres in size.
Okay. Do you, just for my placement, do you know any of, like, are there
Mr.
any
Mayor,
large stores there?
if I might just interject right here, and
You,
not
Mr. Warlock?
to correct you, but it is not south of Skillman's Lane, it's north of Skillman's Lane.
My apologies.
It's in front of the Hempstead Gardens apartment complex. It comprises 2 buildings, Hempstead Plaza 1 and Hempstead Plaza 2, which are just immediately south of Kingsbury Acres, if that puts you in that section of Route 27, in the north of Skillman's Lane. So there's a building at the corner of Skillman's Lane that I believe is owned by the Saddams, and then the next 2 buildings immediately north of that are the ones that you're discussing right now.
All right, thanks. I was trying to place it in my mind.
My apologies, my compass was...
No, that's okay. That's fine. Okay. Anything else?
No.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak on this particular ordinance? Yes, sir.
Andrew Ulrich, ULLRICH, with the Weingarten Law Firm, Piscataway, New Jersey. My client is M&M at Bennett's Lane. They filed an application some time ago. Half of their property lies in the GNB, the GB zone. The other half is in the R40 zone.
Yes.
So naturally, this proposed ordinance would not only affect my client's property, but they believe that it is. The surrounding properties are of such a nature that that if this ordinance is passed, it'll be confiscatory and affect the value and the use of my client's property. It's also a missed opportunity, I think, for other properties in the GB district in the future, if they're not thriving, to potentially change those properties. I know the council has mentioned that there's a potential for a use variance in the future, but that potential exists for every property. We think that obviously it would discourage that avenue for developers and owners if you were to take that away now with this proposed ordinance, and we also are looking for the township to revisit the properties that are being designated.
Sir, excuse me.
Councilman Kramer?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is this a piece of property that once had about 660 townhomes planned to be put on it?
It may have been, I think it was about 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah, I think it was around 2007.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, I recall it quite well.
Yes, I don't believe that the current application is for that density on the
You might recall
property.
me, Philip Kramer, 429 Canal Road. You're not impressing me.
I personally don't recall you at all.
That is to your benefit. If you recalled me, you would not be pressing for this piece of property.
Okay.
I sit here because of that piece of property.
Okay.
Speaking about
So,
recall, oh, never mind.
Mayor?
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Ulrich, go right ahead.
Mayor?
Oh,
That was me.
Councilman Vasnella, sorry.
So, you said there's an application in now?
Yes, my client approached me late last week and said that there was an application that was filed about a year ago. The town has their escrow money. I am not aware right now of the status of the application that's pending.
So,
Dominich is not here tonight. I was going to...
So I guess I asked our attorney, just to make sure we're fully understanding, if there's applications that were filed prior to the zoning change, or proposed possible zoning change, what do they fall under?
Well, first, I don't know whether there is an application or whether it's been deemed complete. Mark Healy would probably know.
Yeah, I don't know. It has not been deemed complete. We did receive it probably in excess of a year ago, and I'm trying to rack my brain here to remember what was actually proposed. I don't recall there, and please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't recall there being residential in that application. I think
Right,
that
it's commercial.
application was solely for commercial use.
So-
I'm not an attorney, I'm only a planner, but if this ordinance is taking out residential uses and leaving all of the commercial uses, and the variance is for commercial use in the R40 and the M2, I'm personally struggling to understand what impact, if anything, it would have on that application.
Well, that's what I'm getting to, that if there's a application pending, if it's either residential or commercial, if it would not be,
We don't need you.
I'm trying to understand why you're here. I'm trying to understand why you're here.
Well, because of the potential future impact that this would
Okay.
have on my client's...
But you're suggesting you guys have a plan, there's still debate whether or not it's an actually, but you have a plan that would be allowed anyway, but you're against the ordinance because you want to be able to come in and dramatically change and possibly go back to hundreds of units.
I don't know what my client wants, but this would make, in the future, I don't know what my client wants to do, but I know that this would foreclose the ability of my client to develop something that's consistent with the area around it.
Well, I could only speak for myself, but at some point, our laws have to be so that we understand how things roll out in development in this town down in the future. And as much as, quite frankly, I'm not real happy about any residential development at this point because of the cost to the town to maintain a quality of life for all of its residents, I want to be fair and understand. That's why I was trying to ask the questions to those gentlemen there. But I'm having a hard time reconcile your request, but
It's an objection, not a...
reconcile your objection, other than you'd like to be able to have an open book forever on putting forward all kinds of developments in areas that we have trouble maintaining traffic and everything else anyway. I'm not against, I'm just trying to, it's not making sense to me personally.
Mr. Ulrich,
Councilman Chase?
I think really only a very small part of the property owned by your client is in the general business zone, and part of that is occupied by the Wells Fargo Bank there on the corner. So just, what are you asking for?
They have other properties as well in the GB district, the shopping center. And obviously, this is, this affects their future development rights in those properties as well.
So you mean he wants to tear down the shopping center and put in apartments?
No, I'd never say that. I'm just saying it forecloses his future expectations and his rights in the property.
Nebulous.
The shopping center's doing fine.
Okay. And it just for information,
I don't want that.
I remember the 600 units also.
800.
800, okay. We have, anything else? No. Mr. Ulrich, we appreciate your input. Thanks. Anyone else on this item? Want to close the public discussion?
Seeing no one else, I move to close the hearing on this.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor of closing public hearing on 16A?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. So public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded.
Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Kramer.
So in respect to the attorneys, they've got a job to do. They're representing a client, and they did it well. I actually think these two properties presented are great examples of why we should pass this ordinance. The property, the Bennett's Lane property has been well examined by this town, and with an overwhelming vote in a recall election as to how that property should be treated. And as far as the retail property near Hempstead, I met most of the properties along Route 27 south of there, well, starting north of there from the Stop and Shop, the Wachovia, or Wells Fargo, on south, do very well. I think the developer would do well at redeveloping that shopping center. That you've got the Hempstead Gardens and Kingsbury right there. They're walking distance to do shopping. And if they were to redevelop that, I think they'd have a very profitable place. I try to stop housing development whenever I can. It puts more cars on the street. Route 27, if you've traveled it, has a couple of cars on the street there. More kids in the school, which costs us more money. I think this is an excellent ordinance. So I am strongly in favor of it.
Councilman Chase?
I'm familiar with two existing buildings. The more southerly one is fully occupied and seems to be doing well. I shop at the Patel's Market there once in a while. The more northerly one is very poorly occupied, but I would say that the owner should first examine why is this poorly occupied and what can they do to make it more attractive. In a general sense, I mean, it's always up to the council to decide the right balance between residential property and commercial property in the town, bearing in mind that the commercial property pays taxes but does not put kids in the school, so it is really helping all of the residents by paying those taxes. And therefore, we have reason to make our judgments about the proper balance. We've built a lot of multifamily residential in recent years, as Mr. Healy explained, and I don't think that we need to go on converting commercial buildings to residential buildings. I think one thing we can look at is more development along Hamilton Street that that would have shops on the ground floor and residences above, and this is permitted there. But that's different from converting commercial properties along Route 27, which of course they're highly visible to shoppers passing along 27. They really ought to be maintained as business properties.
Okay.
I just wanted to real quick,
Councilman
and I'm getting big discussion. Mr. Healy, this doesn't involve any of the Hamilton Business District land coverage, right?
The only area along, it does not affect the Hamilton Street business zone at all.
Business district.
No,
You know, the
zoning
HB.
district, but there's the one area along at the end of, or the start, right where it meets, Hamilton Street meets Franklin Boulevard.
South of that mall?
The shop, yeah, that, with the KFC and the Walgreens.
Sure, right south of that
And
mall.
going down Franklin Boulevard a little bit, that area's in the GB zone. That area is currently developed for commercial uses. So what the effect of this, it was, somebody couldn't tear down at least as of right in the ordinance, they couldn't tear down the shopping center with the Walgreens and put up apartments there as of right.
Okay, so
But it does not affect the Hamilton Street.
say across the street where you have the Subway Quick Check or whatever it was, and the Franklin Township building
I
there.
think that's actually in the office professional zone, so that's not affected either. And
So
it
that's
does-
not affected
yeah,
either.
This does not affect at all what Councilman Chase just talked about on Hamilton Street with the retail on the first floor and retail on first floor, residential above. That zoning scheme has not changed at all.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And as it kind of outlined, unfortunately, in New Jersey, the state gives a disincentive for housing units because schools cost more than the property taxes that come in sometimes. On these, on a personal level, I didn't, not fond based on history of the Bennett's Lane project. Of the one on Route 27, yeah, I'd go for the rezoning or keeping it general business, but this is me personally, just policy. I would not be adverse to the idea of if the zoning board added some units, especially affordable housing units. I'm always a proponent of those, but that's just my my personal opinion. That's all, yeah. And, just Councilman Chase?
Oh, I just wanted to make one more comment about the property on Campus Drive. At one time, Habitat for Humanity was interested in constructing multi-unit housing there. I haven't heard any more about that for a very long time. And in practice, that would be a very poor place to put affordable housing because of the lack of public transportation there. It's really, to my mind, always desirable to put affordable housing where there is public transportation available.
Yeah, that's, just for me, yeah, I agree with that. I wasn't saying put affordable housing everywhere. I'm just saying in any particular place. You're right, Campus Drive wouldn't be good because it's too far from anything.
Can we call for the
Don't
vote?
get me wrong. Is there any other comments? Okay. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16A, ordinance 4021-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Prasad? Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Thank you very much for your input, and as always, you can go to zoning if that's your preference. So now we come back to the agenda, to item number 10, standing committee reports.
He's mad at Jim because he's had all that time.
And the first one we have is administration. Anyone from administration want to give a report?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman? Oh, did you?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you
Giving the
meant
report. Yeah, okay, I'm sorry, there was a little bit of confusion there. Our last meeting, we talked about the review of our township manager, and just wanted to
Just trying to.
let the public understand, there were some priorities that were set by the council. We had a retreat in which we identified projects that we thought would be beneficial to the township, and those became part of the manager's goals and objectives. He also had selected some goals and objectives of his own, and he certainly has done admirably. I just wanted to give you some idea of the types of things that he's working on. We talked, one of the things we were pushing for was the youth center, and he has some conversations going with the YMCA. We talked about some shared services being developed as a way of additional revenue for the township by utilizing some of our own staff for other areas such as the Board of Education or the library using our IT services. Those are just examples. And then economic development. These are the types of projects we've asked our manager to work on, and he reported to us at that meeting. He also reported on several goals that he himself has developed, and I think they're extremely valuable. I just want to mention them so you're aware of the kinds of things that he's working on and that will help to further develop Franklin into a more professional type of management for our municipality. He's working on putting together a training program for customer service to make sure that people that come into the municipal building get the best possible service possible. He's worked on a program for an appraisal system, setting up appraisals for employees, which seems to have been something we did, but have stopped doing it. So it's a very fine management tool, having come from the corporate world. I know how effective that can be. There is a program called Minute Track, which will help keep track of projects to make sure they are on track, that the council can look at the Minute Track and make sure that things are moving along. Sometimes in the crush of hundreds of projects that come up constantly, you tend to forget about something until maybe 6 months later, and you say, well, whatever happened to that project? And now we're going to be able to stay on top of it. So there are some very admirable goals and objectives, and we're very pleased with the performance of what's going on and what will eventually result as a very fine process for Franklin Township. So that's the report from the admin meeting.
Thank you very much. And Financial Oversight Committee? Councilman Kramer?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, we talked about 5 things. One was a personnel issue, so I'll not speak about that. Another was the Pulte issue, so I don't think we need to go over that again. Another was just a incidental report, so I won't go over that. But the things of substance were Middlebush Park lights. We went out to bid, and we were expecting $250,000 based on how much it cost to light the ballpark, the softball fields. And 2 bids came back very close to each other at $350,000, so we have to go out to bid again. Even if we do settle a bid at $350,000, the park is still, right now, we don't have all the bids in, but right now, looks like it'll be somewhat under budget. Then the other item was the Berry Pump Station. Basically the same story on that. We were expecting the bids to come back around $900,000, and they came back at $1.3 million. This pump station interconnects us with New Brunswick. With it up there, we can get cheaper water, and I wouldn't say we're running out of water, but we don't have the capacity, or we're beginning to come to the point, especially with the homes going in and Summerfields, we're getting to the edge of the capacity to service everyone, and this would help in that capacity. So we're going to go out to rebid that. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. And Public Safety Committee. Any?
No.
Okay. Want to?
I guess,
Right. Do you want Public Safety Committee report? Councilman Regan.
Sorry, I tried to get a little way to draft. You don't have the minutes, so I'm going to wing it. It matters.
We actually just met prior to this meeting. There really wasn't too many things on the item. The one item of note to discuss was, that came out of a couple of committees, one being the ELS, was having the township manager investigate the possibility of having defibrillators in this building and in the Public Works building. So if that can't be accomplished this year, then a note will be taken such that it is recommended to be part of next year's budget. The other thing was a recommendation that also came out of ELS and may have come out of another committee also, to have township employees to canvass them to see if anybody's interested in becoming certified in CPR, so that way in the building, our township employees, even as they were riding around town, may also have that capability, and that will be worked with the chief, working with the instructor from the police department. So that really was it from the public safety point of view.
Okay, thank you. Land use, open space, parks, and recreation.
Mr. Mayor, we haven't
Councilman Wright?
a meeting yet. It comes up next week, I believe.
Okay.
Next week, we'll have a meeting, so I'll report back in August.
Okay, thank you. And Public Works?
oh, not me. That's you usually.
Wow.
Councilman Chase.
I made a mistake in the time of the last meeting, so I arrived just as Deputy Mayor Sherman and the township engineer were finishing up, so I was hoping she would
Oh, I'm
report
sorry.
on it.
I didn't prepare myself. You're right. There was a mix-up on the meeting. I don't have any of my notes with me.
I mean,
We can report at the next meeting.
I know the main thing was just final approval of the list of streets to be repaved in the next year, including more of JFK Boulevard and I think Demont Lane.
Our manager.
New Brunswick Road.
Actually, Councilman, that was our Public Works Committee meeting. So you just, while you may have arrived late, that was the one and only agenda item. So that is what we discussed at our Public Works Committee meeting.
Just while we're on the subject of that meeting, or the road repaving, if it indeed passes tonight, could we please put, not the entire ordinance, but the list of roads that are approved on the website? And then I know Mr. Zelnick gives us information as the actual schedule, bidding, and work schedule comes out, but if we can try to keep that as much up to date, assuming that passes tonight. Because I know a lot of people have been asking about what roads are budgeted for repaving. Thank you, and repair.
Okay. Okay, so thank you for that. So now we come up to item number 11, council comments. I guess we're starting on
No, this is this
this end this time?
list for us.
Forgetting.
Doesn't matter.
And Carl Wright?
Mr. Mayor, I'll be brief and quick because of the hour.
Yeah.
4th of July with the fireworks. First off, I would like to thank Bill Grippo, who was our chairman, and is also a principal here in Franklin Township, and a former councilman here, for his outstanding work in putting it together, from bringing in the vendors, worked with Councilman Raj Sherman, and he's been our chairman for the last 3 years. And I want to say he's done an outstanding job in each one of those years, and he ought to be commended for his activities here on behalf of the citizens of Franklin Township. The second item is Middle Bush Park, and Councilman Kramer brought that up. It's moving along pretty rapidly. We're even going down to the southern end for Catalpa, and that park is moving along pretty good down at and I see Councilman Chase nodding his head up and down. So we're doing pretty good. I am looking for the end of construction at Middlebush Park. That way we can all come in for the dedication and actually have the youth in this town use the park. They are using it now, but that official opening would be a good thing to see. And Mr. Mayor, that's it for me.
Thank you. Councilman Phil Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Ms. Sherman mentioned, I was at the St. Thomas Parish opening, and it was everything she said it was, really kind of a moving land breaking. Then I will reiterate the fireworks, again, a great success, and kudos to Ms. Sherman and to Mr. Grippo. Canal Fest. I am now unabashedly advertising Canal Fest. October 19th in East Millstone on Market Street. We closed down the street. Lots of food, lots of music, lots of food, lots of vendors, and did I mention the food? Yeah, it's a lot of fun. This will be the third year. Last time we think we had about 1,000 people. We're hoping for more. Another point, we had the big thing here about Pulte Construction, and that case dragged on for some time, and I think some time unnecessary at some expense to council. In many towns, the township attorney is the director of law. In other words, depending on the structure of how the town is set up, he's actually the department head. I don't know if our ordinance or our Faulkner portion of the Faulkner Act exactly describes that, but I would like to discuss that in financial oversight, and I assume admin would probably want to discuss it as well, as to having our township attorney oversee the other attorneys. It'd probably take him only an hour or two a month, and it would be, you know, for a small cost, a lot of insurance. Had we been doing it, we would have saved a lot of money, I think, on the Pulte case. So I think that's something we should investigate, and perhaps we'll hear about more later. I will, my last thing is the Canal Road issue that we have a separate ordinance on, or resolution on, and I'll talk about that then. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilman Ted Chase.
As Mr. Tibbs said, he actually had a reporter in from the Home News to see the garden in Naaman Williams Park, and he'd invited me to be there. And the garden is going great guns, and they're asking to have more plots installed there, and perhaps in the future to expand it. The Environmental Commission discussed this a bit, and I think we have potential for more community gardens in the township, and the question is, really each one needs somebody to pick up the ball and manage it. So the Environmental Commission is suggesting that we recruit people for a community gardens committee who can exchange information and also take some responsibility for managing community gardens. I know there's the potential for having another one at Martin and Norma Streets, and we could probably have one down either on the Catalpa property or possibly the Gunther property. The volunteer videography program has put up a video of the roses in Colonial Park's Rose Garden when they were in full flower in June. You can see any Monday, Wednesday, Friday at 12 o'clock on Channel 29. The lady that was having trouble concerning her patio, and I'm sorry I didn't get your name, I would say the person to talk with is Vince Dominack, who's the senior zoning officer, who's Barbara Lessig's supervisor, and he has often told me that they are not out for collecting fines or anything like that. They're just out for getting people to do things right. But I would also comment to anybody who gets in this situation, the thing to do is, when you first get a notice, gather up all the paperwork you can find and go in then and see Vince Dominack or Barbara Lessig and see what's the minimum you can do to get the situation resolved. I know we had somebody in Kingston who had a very long-running problem because he could never quite seem to do what the code called for. The Historical Commission, I was just reminded by what Councilman Kramer said. The Historical Commission is beginning to plan having a workshop on how to replace windows and roofs as historically correctly as possible. They want to have this in East Millstone, which is where a lot of activity occurs that comes before the Historic Commission. Somewhat after the Canal Fest, they figure they can advertise it at the Canal Fest. So these are just various things that have come up from various committees I sit on. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Pardon me. Councilman James Vasanella.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a reminder that our library and community center is open for cooling centers. I think the library till about 9 o'clock most nights, and the community center till 4:30 or so, but please do not hesitate. And if you know someone who you think, elderly or not elderly, that is having a hard time with the heat, please tell them, remind them, or bring them, or whatever. Because it's going to be a difficult week, and we may get more this summer. The ELS meeting, attended by Councilman Reagan and myself, was very productive. Besides the issues with training employees voluntarily to learn about CPR and the use of defibrillators, we also talked about many other items. I don't have minutes in front of me. I don't know if they were distributed. I think they're still being written up. But we talked about elevator access in some of these buildings that have elevators, but the front doors are locked. You have to call in if our rescue squads need to go rescue someone. So we're looking at everything in that committee, and it was a very productive meeting. I want to thank Sergeant Ferreira for he's taken over at the beginning of this year, and within months has got caught up to speed in helping us move along and get clarity for some of these situations so that the rescue squads can operate fully and most efficiently. And where there is any disparity in operating procedures, we're all trying to get that on the same page. We'll be meeting again in September. And also went to a Raritan Millstone Flood Commission, and they are, let's just say, being very active. They're going to try to attend an event in New Brunswick. Also, we're going to try to have a booth at the Canal Fest, since flooding obviously is always an issue in the canal and rivers in Franklin. As far as, I'm sorry. I also want to thank Victory Chase. Councilman Chase was modest when he mentioned the program that she basically went out and produced on her own, or maybe with the assistance of other volunteers, but it is something worth watching, and will give you an idea of what our volunteer videography program does, other than record some of the committee meetings and board meetings around town. The work at Foxwood and Easton looks like it's completed. I don't think the new signal lights have been turned on, but I believe they were ahead of schedule with the project. And I mentioned this last time, that's one of the improvements that came from the Easton Avenue corridor study, and we're hoping to get some more of those improvements to increase the safety and movement on Easton Avenue. Otherwise, just stay cool and enjoy the rest of the summer for anybody who isn't watching us after tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Brian Regan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Really, the comments will just be brief tonight. At this point, I just really want to, again, talk a little about the July 4th celebration. It was really a very wonderful event here at our municipal building complex. But I specifically tonight want to really just focus on many of the township employees who volunteered their time and residents, because there was the fire department members. A number of them did not spend that time with their families watching the fireworks, as they were staffing the engines and on duty just in case there was an accident. And we have to always be prepared for that. Every year we see on the news about fireworks going, a problem with them and causing damage. So I really do want to thank them. Want to thank the police officers who also volunteered their time. That was not a cost to the committee, so they volunteered their time. Additionally, I want to thank the other township employees who did volunteer. There were other people in the town who came and worked or stayed late that day and worked to really have that evening go over well. So, I know at times, sometimes you hear a lot of frustration about town municipal employees or state employees, but here in Franklin, we do have a number of our employees who really do give back in ways to the community by volunteering their time. So I want to thank them. And also our township manager, who was out there after putting in a full day, was also out there the whole night. And it was a little on the warm side, so it wasn't, I'm sure he would have rather, like many other workers, been home watching fireworks from the comfort of their air conditioning rooms. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilwoman Kimberly Francois.
Speaking of the 4th of July, for all of you, my council colleagues that did not see it, you missed it. We had some wonderful entertainment, as our deputy mayor mentioned, and there was one band in particular that was playing the salsa. And if you didn't see it, you missed our Councilman Chase doing the jig, Councilman Rajiv Prasad doing the jig.
Assemblyman Shivakula doing the jig particularly.
Particularly, yes, and myself.
And I walked away from that one.
And you walked away. And our Director of Recreation, Alice Sipowicz, she had her camera, so I thought she was going to put it up on the website. Actually, Assemblyman Shivakula asked me, was it on the website? That's a follow-up action item.
Action item, so noted, the dancing of our politicians
if you didn't see it, you missed it.
Fireworks.
Yes, it was quite a sight for sore eyes. But we all had a good time. There were a lot of nice families there, lots and lots of young people. They really seemed to enjoy themselves. And I want to congratulate and thank all the people who volunteered their time and their talent. And also, I had an opportunity to volunteer at Project Graduation till 2 in the morning and work with our young graduates, and I really enjoyed that activity and event. It's a safe night for our youth, and it seems it went out without a hitch, and they seem to have a really, really nice time. And then I want to just remind you guys that Week of the People is on its way from August 4th to August 10th, and I have handouts for you. The first kickoff is Family Day Cookout. There's going to be free hot dogs and hamburgers until they're gone, of course, at Neiman Williams Park. Take one and pass it down. And then we also have events leading up throughout the week. There's an Interfaith Council movie night on August 7th over at the SCAP, and they're going to be talking about different faiths and diversity requirements associated with those faiths and how we can all leverage off of those and work together. And then on the 10th, there's a New Dawn Festival. So if you can come out, we would certainly appreciate you to come out and participate in Week of the People events. I don't know if the actual activities are on our website. I'm not sure. I don't think they are. Okay. We can put it on the website. Okay. And it's all the events are free, and it's a community event for everybody in the township. And it's the theme this year is community and unity. And this is going to be the 50th annual event of Week of the People, the 50th time they've done it. This is a long-standing event that they've had every year, the first week of August. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor Roz Sherman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's interesting, when I first thought of the Franklin Township Cultural Arts Council, it really was something that I saw in the newspaper that kind of inspired me, and there was people dancing in a community. They were dancing on the street. And when I brought in the salsa band, that was the vision that I had. I wanted people dancing. I didn't ever think that I'd have council people dancing.
You missed it. You missed it.
I did. I'm so sorry. I hope they do post that one.
It was good. It was good.
That was worth the whole price of the evening. If I had seen that. Sorry I missed it.
Well, Carl, he acted as if he didn't know us. He stood there and watched, but at a distance.
I
tried to get him to come on and dance with us. But he wouldn't have no parts of it.
No. Non-dancers, no.
Yeah.
No.
Well, the other thing I just wanted to let the public know about, the Cultural Arts Council not only lets people know about our events, and we have put on 14 events in the first 6 months of this year. That's a huge number of events. We also list other events that are going on in the township, such as the Week of the People. That's listed on our email monthly newsletter that goes out. So if you are not on our email list, you will miss getting all this good information. So let me give you our Gmail account. Send me an email saying I'd like to be put on your email list so that you can start getting these newsletters. Our email address is franklincac, one word, franklincac@gmail.com. And we'll be happy to list any events that are going on, any cultural events that are going on for other organizations. We don't have a newspaper, that you can find these things out about. At least it's a bit of a way of communicating within our township.
Good.
And the last item that I just would like to mention again is Project Graduation. Didn't have things like that when I was growing up. It's a wonderful thing to do for our young folks on the day of their graduation so they don't get in any mischief. And it's a super way for them to get together and spend one last time as a class and just enjoy each other's company. It was a total joy to watch our young folks just interacting, having a great time. And it was a pleasure to be there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And for my comments, it's because at Project Graduation, we must have almost literally passed in the night. I came there a little bit late, so sorry I missed you there. And graduation was great also. Just to reiterate that with our fine students. Many accepted to many fine schools, and many just going on to good jobs, trades, careers, universities, good group of kids. So that concludes council comments. So go to item number 12.
Mr. Mayor?
Councilman Kramer.
Pardon me, Mr. Mayor. We've always tried to be kind to our audience. There are 3 people here waiting for 17A. Might I move that we move that forward so that they can get a good night's sleep?
Okay.
Even though we won't.
Motion to move item 17A, ordinance 4032-13 to right now. And that is utility easement, Marina Energy LLC, et cetera.
So I'll second that motion.
Okay. So moved and seconded. This is not on the motion, it's just to move it to vote on, discuss now. Okay. All in favor of moving 17 for now, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, Motion is carried, and this has been added since our agenda was put on the weekend. So this is a, bear with me, please. This is 17A on the agenda, ordinance 4032-13. It's an ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the granting of a utility easement to Marina Energy, LLC, for proposed 20-foot wide electric underground conduit on Commerce Drive in connection with docket number PLN 12-00009. And just as we're saying, this is vote on now, introduction, and we should have, on August 15th, we should have the second and final vote on this. The foregoing ordinance is presented to the Township Council for adoption on first reading, posting, publication in accordance with law, and public hearing and final adoption on Thursday, August 15th, 2013, at 7 o'clock p.m. here at the Municipal Complex. Is there a motion to introduce?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Can, is there a briefing we have on the essence of this one? Just a standard utility easement?
Yes, Mayor.
Okay. That's a standard utility easement, okay.
And I know this isn't a time where we'd have, because it's just the first reading, any input from the public?
Basically, L'Oreal, which is along Dahmer Commerce, has put in this huge solar array, and this is the easement to put lines underground to get power from where it's being produced to where it's needed. And I've learned that there was some mix-up as, the panels are in, ready to collect energy, and you'd say, well, gee, why are we doing this now? Why didn't they plan ahead? And I guess there was some confusion back and forth as to the need of the easement.
My understanding was initially it was going to be aerial, and now it's underground, so there's the requirement to go across our right-of-way with an easement to get to the public service, lines that are across the street. So that's the need for the easement, and this obviously, if this easement is not granted, it would considerably slow down this project and not allow for its completion in a timely manner.
So
Councilman Vasanella.
I favor personally, as much as possible, be it underground. I still don't know why we have as many wires above ground. What jumped out at me is 20-foot wide.
It's a standard easement for utility.
Oh, okay. It's not like you're putting in 20-foot wide material.
No, it's a
I got you.
20-foot wide easement, which is a standard utility easement.
Gotcha. Electric underground. It just said proposed 20-foot wide electric underground conduit. That's what made me think of picture some 20-foot wide conduit. Thank you.
That would be big.
Thank you. That's great. I hope it works well.
Okay. So, this is L'Oreal. Did we have some site or buffering issues by some people in that area?
Currently, there's, as a part of this particular application, I believe that the company that's installing the solar panels and is working with our planner currently to improve the buffering that would then benefit the residents of Dahmer Road. It's also my understanding, through my invitation, that there is a meeting for those residents along Dahmer Road at L'Oreal next Thursday evening that was facilitated by Councilman Kramer. That hopefully will resolve some of the anxiety of some of the residents in that particular area.
Okay.
So, Mr. Mayor, what went on there was some concerns about how the solar panels went in and the buffering and the fencing around that, and there's been discussion, and there's going to be a meeting Thursday, as you said. So I guess my word to our people out here is, be good to my peeps on Dahmer Road. And it really comes down to communication. A lot of it's just questions, even sending out a flyer, construction's going to start on this date, it's going to be from this time to this time, and it's going to end on this date. And that's, when you're in a vacuum, everything gets you anxious. When you know what's coming, you're not so anxious. So be good to my peeps.
Okay. Anything else on this? Okay. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 17A, ordinance 4032-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. So on August 15th, Thursday, not Tuesday like usual, there'll be the final vote on this item. Okay, so that's introduced for now. So now we go back to our agenda.
Mr. Mayor,
Oh, Councilman Regan?
since we've moved pretty much everything else around tonight, we only have
Sure.
one person left in the audience.
Yeah.
I make a motion to amend it to move up the Community Development Block Grant Program, item number 15 to now.
That's a good idea.
So that way, someone who wants to go home can.
Okay, so amend the agenda for item 15, Community Development Block Grant, to do that now. That's a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried.
I think our master clerk has just shredded the agenda.
Now, see, because it's digital, I just move everything all over, so.
Can't hear you, Anne Marie.
Because it's all on the computer, I just shift everything up, so when you move something, I take the whole thing and move it up, so it's already done.
Good.
Wow.
Okay.
You are.
That's why she's the master.
Thinking ahead.
Okay, so this is the Community Development Block Grant Program, and there are two parts to this. One is a public hearing,
Yeah.
and one is the resolution. So first part, public hearing on fiscal year 2013 Community Development Block Grant Program 2013 Action Plan. This is the fourth year of the 2010 to 2014 Consolidated Plan. Is there a motion to open a public hearing on this Community Development Block Grant Action Plan?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. This meeting is open for a public hearing on this Community Development Block Grant 2013 Action Plan. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one come forward at this time.
Wait.
Oh, you want to come up? Come on. Come on.
She's here.
I was trying to get you out of here.
That's what she's waited for.
Oh, you know what, actually?
This
that's
is
right.
actually
No,
the
this
public
is the,
hearing.
right, this is the public hearing.
This is the public hearing.
Right,
No,
right. You're not,
The resolution
you're not
amendment.
public.
You're not- Okay, you're right, Carl.
Okay.
Thank you
You're
very
right.
much.
Second, Carl's.
To what?
Huh? Oh, I finished. I need
Yeah.
a second.
Yeah, we need a second.
Moved and
I
seconded.
second, yeah.
All in
Okay.
favor to close
Aye.
public hearing?
Yep.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this item, this resolution, thank you. So now we have the second part of 15, Resolution 13-321, approval of the fiscal year 2013 Community Development Block Grant Program 2013 Action Plan, which is the fourth year of the 2010 to 2014 Consolidated Plan. This is presented to the Township Council for adoption. Is there a motion for adoption?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Now, Ms. Mitchell, did you want to? Okay, do you
No.
have any questions?
No.
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 Okay.
I have a very brief statement. This is
Oh,
federal
Councilman
money,
Kramer.
not township money, just so everyone knows.
Okay. Okay, anything else?
No.
Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 15B, Resolution 13-321, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Ms. Mitchell, thank you for your participation.
See you, Miss Mitchell.
Thank you.
Okay, so now back to the agenda.
If you can tell
Once
where
more.
we are.
Yeah, if I can figure out where we are. We're going to go to item 13, approval of minutes. So minutes of the following meetings are presented to the Township Council for approval. The Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting of May 14th, 2013. The Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting of May 28th, 2013. The Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting of June 11th, 2013. And the Township Council Work Session Regular Meeting of June 25th, 2013. And the Executive Session Minutes of May 14th, 2013, May 28th, 2013, and June 25th, 2013. The aforementioned minutes are submitted to the council. Is there a motion for these minutes?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on approval of the minutes.
To leak out.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
These are the minutes. The minutes we're voting on, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. Next, we have approval of the warrants. The warrants are the bills that we pay, so warrants in the amount of $10,562,386.49 on July 16th, 2013 are presented to the Township Council for payment. Is there a motion to pay the warrants as read?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Madam Clerk, please poll the council on payment of the warrants.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes?
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, next we already did item 15, Community Development Block Grant. So we're going to go to item 16, which is public hearing adoption of ordinances on second reading. We already did 16A, that was moved earlier. Now, for information, ordinances go into law usually after two votes. They're voted on once for introduction, and then a second time, usually the next meeting or two after that, they vote on a second time. At that second meeting, there's a public hearing where anyone can comment on that ordinance, and if it passes the second time, it goes into law. So these are 6 second readings. The first one we did already, so we'll go to 16B, ordinance 4026-13, a bond ordinance providing for the 2013 road resurfacing program in and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $2,750,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $2,600,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the costs thereof. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is a motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this ordinance. Anyone wishing to speak, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one in the audience, I move we close the public discussion.
Second.
Moved and all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and
So
publication
moved.
in accordance with law?
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16B, 4026-13, please.
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Motion is carried. Next, we have item 16C, ordinance 4027-13, a bond ordinance providing for various capital improvements in and by the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $1,033,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $983,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. This is various capital improvement projects which were approved in our budget. Pardon me. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Motion for public hearing on this ordinance?
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public discussion on this ordinance.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one in the audience, I move we close the public discussion.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Okay, I'll take that as move and second. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 16C, ordinance 4027-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We now have item 16D, ordinance 4028-13, a bond ordinance providing for various capital acquisitions and improvements for the water utility of the Township of Franklin in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $656,000 therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $656,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance parts of the cost thereof. This bond ordinance relating to our water utility and activities related to that. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication, and a public hearing is in order. Is there a motion to open the meeting for public discussion on this item?
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
See no one coming forward, Mayor, a motion to close the public portion of the meeting.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed for this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Move.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the council on item 16D, ordinance 4028-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We next have item 16E, ordinance 4029-13, a bond ordinance providing for improvements to Middle Bush Park, a lawful public purpose, by and in the Township of Franklin, in the County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, known as the Township, appropriating $3,675,000 from the Open Space Trust Fund, therefore, and authorizing the issuance of $3,500,000 bonds or notes of the Township to finance part of the cost thereof. This is a bond ordinance for improvements which have been discussed and put in our budget regarding Middle Bush Park, which comes from our Open Space Fund. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. Motion for public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Moved in second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hand.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one in the audience, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So
moved.
Second.
Okay, take that move in second. Madam Clerk, please pull the council on item 16E, ordinance 4029-13, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes, I'd just like to point out that these bonds will be paid off from the receipts of the open space tax, not from general township tax monies.
That's correct.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have the last of our ordinance hearings and second readings for the evening. It's item 16F on the agenda, ordinance 4030-13. An ordinance of the Township of Franklin, County of Somerset, State of New Jersey, authorizing the acceptance of a deed of easement and right-of-way from David Trin, Melva Trin, and Christopher J. Trin in connection with Block 11.02, Lot 22, Old Georgetown Road, docket number PLN 08-0004. It's a routine deed of easement. The Township Attorney has approved the affidavit of publication. The public hearing is in order. The motion to open the meeting for public hearing on this ordinance.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Meeting is open for public hearing on this ordinance. Anyone interested in speaking, please raise your hands.
Mr. Mayor, seeing no one in the audience, I move to close the public hearing.
Second.
Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion is carried. Public hearing is closed on this ordinance. Thank you. Is there a motion for final passage of the ordinance and publication in accordance with law?
So moved.
Seconded.
Moved and seconded. Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on item 16F, ordinance 4030-13, please.
Councilman Chase,
Yes, although I hope we don't widen Old Georgetown Road.
Councilwoman Francois,
Yes.
Councilman Kramer,
Yes.
Mayor Levine,
Yes.
Councilman Regan,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman,
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes.
Councilman Wright.
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. We did 17A already, ordinance on first reading, on introduction and first reading. We now have our consent agenda, items 18A through 18U. Consent agenda items are items generally of a routine nature that can be voted on in one vote. It is any person's prerogative to take something off for a separate vote if he or she chooses. So is there a motion for the consent agenda or discussion?
Mayor?
Councilman Vasanella.
Yes, just not the consent agenda moment, just if I could please go back for a moment to item 15, Community Development Block Grant Program, number 2, Resolution 13-321. I believe I voted in favor of it, although I do support it. I would like to change my vote to abstaining simply because one of the line items, one of the smaller grants made is to a committee, to a organization which I'm a member of the Board of Trustees. Although we're not paid or compensated in any way, I would just like to change a vote to an abstention, if that is okay.
Okay, Mr. Raynon, our attorney, he can change his vote?
Yes. I actually think that Councilman Vasanella was talking to me about it when the vote came, so yes.
I thought I avoided the vote, but the clerk suggested that I did vote yes, so
Okay.
anyway, no big deal. Thank you,
Okay,
Lou. Thank you, Mayor.
Madam Clerk, you'll change that accordingly,
All
please.
done.
Already done. How do you like that? Thank you. Okay, back to the consent agenda. Any motion or discussion?
Discussion.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes, I'd just like to point out, item O is for the permit for the Canal Fest, where I believe I forgot to mention they'll have food.
Oh, okay. Okay. Anything else or a motion for the consent agenda?
No.
Councilman Chase?
I'd like to ask the manager if he has any idea. Item B there, this is a tax appeal on a single-family house that reduces the valuation by $400,000. And it seems like a big change. I mean, I think it's something like going from 1.3 million down to 900,000. I haven't checked the figures, but does he know anything about why? And this one apparently went up to the tax court, which usually our single-family house appeals don't. But
Okay.
I suppose this may be a detail that has escaped him.
They do when they're over $1 million.
That's right.
They're outside of the jurisdictional limit of the county tax board.
But back to the original question, if I understood Councilman Chase, is there usually there's supporting documentation or some memo when there's something that dramatic and I appreciate you catching that, Councilman. I usually look more carefully at the commercial ones, but is there anything that would give us maybe some more comfort in approving this settlement?
I can certainly get additional information from the tax assessor. Generally, as has been explained to me, when we have these stipulations of settlement, the settlements involve multi-year tax appeals because of the backlog of the tax court, and that the settlement involves an adjustment of the valuation for one of the multiple years to allow for the adjustment in the tax. And now, what I'm saying is if you adjust one out of multiple years, but they pay the tax for the additional years in the multi-year tax appeal. But if you'd like, I can get additional information from Mr. Carabelli.
Well, this one is for 2 years, and it's in 2 steps. In other words, it went down $200,000 for 2012 and another $200,000 for 2013. It's almost as if you were taking down part of the house.
Well, we can certainly get a memo from the tax assessor just explaining what it is. I don't think there's anything time-sensitive about holding it until...
Right.
No, I'm not.
No, that's why I said I certainly can get an additional...
Or if you want to, even if you wanted to adopt it and then get the memo afterwards. But
Yeah.
either way, I understand, and this actually is an ongoing issue, and is something that we might want to deal with. Is you do get memos with these, but frankly, this memo reads exactly the way every other memo says, which is this is a good settlement, and I suggest that you approve it.
Yeah, it never gives any details.
And it doesn't take much to try to. This is a single-family house. They're all comparable sales. I'm assuming it's that the sales in the neighborhood don't support the value of this property, and that's why the reduction. That's my only guess.
Yeah, if my neighborhood hears about this, they'll all file tax appeals.
You're assuming they haven't already.
Okay, so just for clarification, would you like pulled or go through and
No,
then
no,
request a detailed memo?
no. I'm sure the assessor has reason. I'd just sort of like to know what the reasons were. I mean, partly because it's near enough to me. I know where it is and so forth. I don't think I've been up that driveway, but...
Okay, so Mr. Vornlocker will get a memo on that at some point. but-
I will, absolutely.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you. Any other, either motion for consent agenda or other discussion? Anyone?
I'll move the consent agenda then.
Second.
Moved and second. And one thing I'll note, too, as has always been the case, item H, Resolution 13-329, Rescue Squad Services, Robert Wood Johnson Health Network, mostly our daytime coverage, for the 1 year starting August 1st. Again, that's at no cost to our township, awarding it to them. If no other discussion, Ms. McCarthy, please poll the council on the consent agenda, items 18A through 18U, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer?
Yes.
Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Yes.
Okay, motion is carried. Now we have item 19, resolutions to be voted on separately. And we've got 5 of these, A through D, so we can take them in one vote, or we can take them separately as the council chooses. A motion for all of them, or just one?
I'll make a motion for all of them.
Okay, that's for 19A through 18D. Pardon me. Motion and second, any discussion?
So, Mayor?
Councilman Vasanella?
Yeah, just real quick, and I know I asked Councilman Kramer before, and has been or will be in contact with people affected by the Resolution A. The only other thing I was going to mention, if it isn't against any protocols or any rules, could we inform the churches and houses of worship in East Millstone, and then if there's any, I don't believe there's any, if there's any near the south of Butler Road there. Just, because this is a couple months away, but we can inform them if this is indeed passed, so that, people coming and going and may use Canal every Sunday to go to their house of worship will be aware in advance of the closure. I believe the closure's on a Sunday. Is that okay, or is that allowable?
Notify, no, that's a good idea, right, because if people are coming up that way.
Yeah, they're
to the church,
property owners
they
like
should know-
anybody else. Yeah,
They
sure.
should know in advance.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Just I saw when I saw Sunday, so, yeah, okay, that's all I had.
So,
Kramer?
yeah, so what Councilman Vasanella is alluding to is a resolution I asked to be put up after speaking about this for quite some time with the manager who knows a thing or two about traffic, the chief of police, local residents, and some of the bike clubs, is to close Canal Road basically from East Millstone down to Butler Road, which is, I'm guessing, 4 or 5 mile stretch of road, from the hours of 10 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon on September 8th, the first Sunday after Labor Day, to motorized traffic so that people can ride their bikes down Canal Road. People ride their bikes down Canal Road a lot, and it's somewhat treacherous, and I thought that they might enjoy a day where they could do it, family members could do it, even someone on a skateboard could skateboard down Canal Road, relatively, free of traffic. Local residents will be allowed on the road, advised to drive at 10 miles an hour. And I might note that, as I pointed out tonight, my address is 429 Canal Road. So if there's any inconvenience, I will share that with them. But I just think it would be a fun thing to do. And I will start talking about it, and maybe we can start advertising it.
Are you offering your house as a pit stop along the way?
You know, I could have lemonade.
Lemonade?
And, we'll also probably let the East Millstone First Aid Squad know, and maybe we can have a vendor or two along there. But I'm trying to do this as simply as possible, as low cost as possible, just basically open up the road for people to ride their bikes. Crossroads like Griggstown Road, I'm sorry, not Griggstown Road. Blackwell's Mills, people will be allowed to go across the causeway there. So it'll be hopefully minimal inconvenience to the local residents, except for 429, who's selling lemonade, apparently.
Okay. And I just have one question on 19D, 13-348, person transfer, plenary retail consumption license. This doesn't have a physical location, just a pocket?
No, it's a parking lot.
Okay. One entity just sold it to another?
Actually, this is the liquor license that was seized by the Division of Taxation and was bid by them and bought by Mr. Kamamis.
Okay. All right, thank you for that. Anything else?
Just
Councilman Vasanella?
For clarity, when a license is taken by the state for whatever reason that they're allowed to take a liquor license away, we are not allowed to rebid it, put it up for bid, and receive the money. It
No,
must go
they-
through the
they
state,
did.
and they have a separate bidding system.
Yeah, because that's how
Right.
they get their back tax money.
Right, and so if somebody sees a dramatic price change as far as what one would go for and another, it's not our doing, it's a bidding process. Because somebody had asked me about, they thought one went much cheaper and what was going on.
It did go much cheaper.
So that's just somebody knowing the laws, following the obtaining of it by the state, and then being at the right place at the right time.
Correct.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Anything else with resolutions vote on separately? Okay, that was moved and seconded for all four. Ms. McCarthy, please pull the counts on items 19A to 19D. Resolutions vote on separately, please.
Councilman Chase?
Yes.
Councilwoman Francois?
Yes.
Councilman Kramer? Mayor Levine?
Yes.
Councilman Regan?
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Sherman?
Yes.
Councilman Vasanella?
Yes.
Councilman Wright?
Okay, motion is carried. We now come to item number 20, old business. It's 2013 Board and Commission vacancies. Are there nominations for any of these open positions? Okay, hearing none, we'll go on. We did have an executive session earlier, which we usually have at the end of the meeting, which brings us to item number 21, adjournment. I'm just going to reiterate first, usually our August meeting is the second Tuesday of the month. The second Tuesday in August is the special primary election for United States Senate, so we're going to have our meeting 2 days later on Thursday, August 15th instead. So is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Nobody wants to go home?
Anyone want a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Thank you very much. Be well. Good summer. We are adjourned.